This is part 2 of the summary of Spare Me Great Lord, the anime where the protagonist receives a perverse power and must do wrong things to get stronger and move up from rank F. Part 1 will be in the description of this video. Continuing where we left off, Fei was fighting against that group of 3 awakened D rank. He was at a disadvantage and had to run, but soon reinforcements came and helped him balance the fight, but unfortunately for him and his dragnet companions they didn't manage to shoot down these enemies because the police appeared at the time which made them leave. The scene cuts with Lu Shu in ambush seeing Fei and the police on the outside of a building. Inside it we realize that the 3 enemies he was facing were hiding there. 2 of them say they better turn themselves in, but their boss says that would be crazy because in the bridge battle they killed 2 dragnets, so they would definitely be punished. He says he can take a few shots from good and leaves the building while taking a shower of bullets carrying his 2 companions. At a certain moment he takes a guided sword from one of the dragnet agents and is immobilized, but everyone's focus changes to Lu Shu, who is caught watching them from Ling, and after making a bad joke Fei orders everyone to catch him, however they can't because Lu Shu, who was surrounded by a very angry blue aura looking like Goku Ultra Instinct, was too fast for any of them, including me. I have to clap my feet for this animation that is beautiful. The fight continues with our protagonist hitting the girls who were trying to violate his yarn, and on the ground the dragnet were fighting that D rank guy from before, including my god from heaven. The guy is rank D, but he was hitting the dragnet guy he was fighting. Imagine the higher rank guy. I just know that Fei saves his partner from being crushed by this guy whose name I don't know, so I'm going to call him a guy. But the fight between them ends with Fei fainting because of an explosion, so the last ones left were this guy and Lu Shu. They fight, but the fight doesn't last long because soon Lu Shu summons a sword that comes out of him, piercing this villain and breaking all the bones in his hand, which makes this guy fall to the ground defeated. Right after this confrontation Lu Shu leaves sending a parkour, and the scene cuts to him arriving in home. His sister is desperate asking if he's okay, but he replies yes. He says he's going to take her to collect valuable resources to train her skill, and on the way out of the house his master Xianni asks where they were going at this time of day night, and he makes an excuse saying he was going to take his sister out for something to eat at a bar. Yes, a bar. He doesn't know how to lie. His master believes him, I don't know how, and warns him not to come back late because it's not safe in the streets. After receiving the warning, the 2 go to the roof, and there he asks his sister to use her summoning ability to summon a bird to do the reconnaissance of the region and see if there was anyone suspicious. After the reconnaissance she says that there is not, and with that Lu Shu goes to the next step. He goes to a dark and abandoned place and calls his sister. He asks if she felt any dead energy nearby, and she replies yes. A tall man and 2 short men. How so, master? If you don't remember how his sister's ability works, I'll explain it again quickly. Basically she has the ability to invoke a shadow of an animal, insect, and even people, but for her to invoke a shadow of a bird, that bird has to have recently died and close to where she is. Basically she summons a copy of beings that died near her. That's basic. Lu Shu asks her to absorb the taller man and try to summon him, but she says she has no power enough. He then tells them to wrap it up for today, but she says she wouldn't leave before he takes her to eat, just like he told his master. So he takes her, and seeing the simple food they were eating, Lu Shu is sad for not being able to give her a good life and says that she would be happier if she went to the orphan. But she gets angry when she hears that from him and says that even though she has nothing she would not leave him because the 2 are family. A flashback accompanied by a playing music shows the past of the 2, and Lu Shu promises her that they will have their own house to live in and their situation will improve. The scene cuts with a dragnet meeting talking about that rank C that gave work to several men at the same time but was defeated by an unknown fighter. Shuajin says that they were trying to find out who this mysterious fighter was and what he wanted, besides being curious with that blue aura around his body. They keep saying that this mysterious fighter has at least a power level close to a professional C rank, and Nye Ting says that only 7 people rose from rank C in the world, so this case should be investigated as much as possible and treated with priority. After leaving, Shuajin says that he identified that this fighter is a teenager and calls him promising for being so strong at that age. The scene cuts with his sister saying she had a surprise for him. When Lu Shu opens the door of his room he comes face to face with a shadow of a man and shits himself. Yes, his sister managed to summon a person with her ability. She explains that in addition to summoning it she can also control its movements with her mind. She says that the shadow seems strong and asks if she could punch Lu Shu to test it. She's kind of crazy, right? She can only, but Lu Shu tells her not to do that because the shadow was a rank D, so the punch would destroy everything. She also says that she has access to his memories and knows where he hid some money before he died. She enters his memories and finds out the exact location, then telling the 2 to go there and get the money for them. But Lu Shu says no because that money is stolen and they should hand everything over to the police. She starts crying saying she doesn't want to go back to the orphanage and wanted to buy that house, but he consoled her by saying that they will have his house. Not today, not tomorrow, but they will. That is, he did the right thing, even gained some negative emotion points for having let his sister down with that news. The scene cuts to school. Arriving in the classroom, Lu Shu irritates some of his colleagues and sits down next to his colleague Shi. Anyone who saw part 1 knows who he is. They talk a little bit until Lu Shu asks if that fugitive rank C who was defeated by him is different from an ordinary person because his soul does not disappear. Shi says that there is a theory about this. When an awakened one dies, he leaves a large amount of energy in the place, and this is related to something called antiparticle. I don't know what that is, neither Lu Shu nor Shi, but he says it has to do with the recent changes in the world after people's awakening started. This event was called Energy Rebirth Spiritual and explains that this peak of energy is not only in places where awakened people died, but also in many places affected by this event. Lu Shu then shows in the cellular sky a news about a crop of chives having been sold for a lot of money and asks if that's what he was talking about, and he says yes. He explains that such places are known as blessed land, and they are lands rich in spiritual energy, which for cultivators is a gold mine because anything grown there is loaded with a lot of spiritual energy. However, he tells Lu Shu not to think about buying land like that because, as profitable as it is, practically all of it has already been bought by the rich. He asks if there is any other form of profitable cultivation, and Shi says that maybe the spiritual stones given for the students to be profitable, and he says that a shipment of these stones would be distributed at the school by someone from Dragnet. The scene cuts with the students gathering for the inauguration ceremony of the new director. He never arrives, and when he arrives, he tells a man in the gate that was late because he went to retrieve some stolen money, but someone reported the money and the police arrived on time. It was definitely Lu Shu because that money is the one his sister wanted to get for them. When the director arrives, the Lu Shu recognizes him as being a Dragnet rank B and makes a worried face. He gets on stage, makes a 2-second speech and leaves. The guy doesn't even know what he's doing there, bro. He's one of those directors that I wanted. The director becomes the new one in charge of the special class where Lu Shu is part, and he warns everyone that they became members of Dragnet from now on and should obey his order. He mentions about a mysterious fighter who defeated a rank D strength type. He is a sword wielder and has a blue aura covering his body and asks them to tell him any information they have about this mysterious person. He continues his class saying that each student would gain spiritual stones according to their rank, and Lu Shu wins too. After that, he takes Shi to the corner, KKK, but without malice, and asks him if it was possible to sell his stones on the black market. He replies yes and calls his contact saying that a friend had spiritual stones to sell. Lu Shu puts a price of 120,000 each, and even though they are so expensive, the buyer immediately agrees with the value. After giving the stones to his friend, he leaves saying that he would pass him his bank account to receive the payment. He remembers past where he was a beggar and used any money he earned to please his sister with gifts, and says that she will be happy when she finds out that he earned 200,000. The scene cuts with the new director named Lu Xiaoyu appearing by surprise in Lu Shu's master's backyard. He says that recently his team climbed the mountains of such a place, and there they found skeletons protecting the place. These skeletons had the level of a rank and the strength type, but he knows at the time what the Lu Xiaoyu wanted to say and already warns him that he had nothing to do with it and that he was keeping his promise that he or the organization did not interfere in the ruin. The atmosphere becomes tense when he mentions the presence of a mysterious fighter who uses swords in the case, if referring to Lu Shu. But once again Lu Shu's master says that this fighter has nothing to do with him, and after a glare between the two he leaves with a smile on his face, telling Xiani to take care. The scene cut with Lu Shu warning his sister that he bought that house and all that was left was to put it in his name. She hugs him crying with happiness, and the scene cuts with Lu Shu in his room training his power and saying that at this rate he should become a C rank soon. Meanwhile, in his sister's room a strange energy was entering her body while she was sleeping. The scene cuts to the next day with Lu Shu leaving a place with the document of his new house in hand. It was 6:40 p.m. and he gets a message in the class group telling all students to be at school by 7 p.m. and he doesn't understand the rush, wondering if a new ruin would open soon. The scene cuts with all the students from the special class inside a van heading towards Ruina. According to Shi, they were going to the ruin that would open soon to protect its perimeter. Lu Shu asks if they would not enter, and he responds no, because the school fears that because they are low rank they would not be able to protect themselves. He asks what this ruin is, and Shi says that there are rumors that it was left on Earth by an alien civilization, and says that it appeared suddenly. After the sudden change he had in the world, He goes on to explain that whenever this ruin appears, several warriors enter it to try to collect its valuable resource like magic items and so on. It's basically a dungeon right there. He says that the most important item valuable is called the Eye of Formation, an item that when picked up makes the ruin disappear. The subject changes, and even in the middle of a situation it would be like this. Lu Shu does not miss the opportunity to make fun of the class representative and earn a few points. Arriving at the base near the ruin, Fei warns everyone that they were there to gain experience and warns that anyone who leaked the plans or information about the place would be court-martialed. Then he sends the students to eat in the base's cafeteria, but because there weren't enough benches, most ate on the floor. A chubby guy walks by Lu Shu, almost stepping on his food, and starts complaining that he doesn't have a bench for him until Fei appears and gives him a bench to sit on, but he doesn't even take advantage of it for a long time because the Lu Shu simply knocks him off his bench with a slap and returns to sit down. The Shi tells him that he should meditate after eating because they were close to the ruin. The place had a great concentration of power magic. However, Lu Shu decides not to meditate but to do something else, irritating the class representative while he meditated, thus gaining a lot of negative emotion points from him. It's been a while since I made part 1 of this video, so I don't remember of all details right, but as far as I know, Lu Shu doesn't need to meditate to get stronger. He uses his negative points to buy items and food in the system store, and those foods that increase his power, in addition to playing the lottery and having the chance of a new power coming, something like that. So instead of meditating, he keeps disturbing the representative's meditation, annoying him to farm many points of negative emotion. He does this so much that it drives the guy crazy, and the next day he challenges Lu Shu to a fight, but according to Fei they should be comrades and not enemies, and he tells them to settle it in arm wrestling. They do the arm wrestling and Lu Shu wins easily, joking that he woke up another one time because of the representative, who gets even more irritated with. He even wins Fei, who tells him he has a future. The next day Lu Shu notices a strong fog covering the entire base where they were, and according to Shi, the fog was from the ruina that was about to form. Suddenly the smoke starts to advance and cover everyone. When it covers the Lu Shu, he starts to fall and stops in an isolated place. He barely has time to see what was happening because a zombie attacks him, but he defeats him. He was inside the ruin and soon several zombies started to appear, forcing him to run away. Funny that he took the zombie's weapon to defend himself. Walking Dead style, several students appear running, telling him to run too if he wanted to live, but when he sees one of them being attacked by a zombie, Lu Shu runs towards the zombie and kills him, killing not only him but everyone else who was chasing the students. After that he leaves the axe with the students and gives some instructions on how to survive, which includes cutting off their heads if they come face to face with one, after which he goes to the other side. After killing some zombies, he notices that it was getting dark and he says that he needed to find a place to stay. He chooses a mountain, and when approaching it he notices a flare, but he knocks it down thinking it was an enemy attack. After noticing that it was a flare, he says that Hu Uspu should be a special student because normal students do not have access to flare. He gains negative points from this student but sees in the system that his name does not appear, only numbers, and asks if he was the spy that Shi spoke. The scene cuts for a while before they fall into ruin, and it shows a man giving several flares to foreign spies, saying that if they get separated they should use it. This guy was one of them. He says his name is Chang, and Lu Shu introduces himself using a false name and says he's from Nanyang City School, but Chang, who is probably a fake name, replies that he's from Nanyang School but he's never seen him there, so suspicious of him. Lu Shu did it on purpose to troll him and farm many points. He even says that he could spend the night there just farming points, and that at that rate he would reach 10k easily. Chang says he would leave there to meet up with his colleagues, and Lu Shu says he will help him and would go with him. As you can imagine, the following scenes consist of Lu Shu annoying this guy and getting a lot of points, and serious. He does this in several different ways until he reaches a point where this guy can't take it anymore and decides to attack Lu Shu. The two fight, and once again the anime presents a beautiful animation. He was strong but not too strong and ends up being defeated by our dear Lu Shu, who kills him by summoning his sword, after which he begins to philosophize about the meaning of life, and the scene cuts with him climbing a tree to get apples. He says that it's great to have something different to eat, but he notices that squirrels live in the trees and they start to get very angry with him for eating his apples to the point of throwing stones in them. He even notices that the squirrels were giving him points for negative emotion, which meant they had intelligence. After running a lot he stops and realizes that he was walking along the edge of the ruin and had not gone to the middle yet, but to prevent when he wants to move on, a pack of wolves appear, but they generate negative emotion points for him when he decides to run away instead of facing, which shows that wolves also have intelligence. After a while running he finds that same group from the beginning to whom he handed the axe. At first they welcome him, but soon they get angry with him as he didn't want to share the food he had. The episode ends with him wondering if no one found the formation eye and going to look for it himself. To end the video with a happy ending, I'm going to show the apples he left there for people to eat. Denying food was just another strategy to farm point. Although he only left 2 apples for several people, so I don't think he's that happy. And here I end this summary. This was part 2 of Spare Me, Great Lord. If you want a part 3 for us to finish the story, don't forget to comment and leave your like.